And they celebrate. They celebrate. Like this monster right here. Bob Villain, and he most certainly is a villain. The same guy who was just a little while ago chanting out death, death to the IDF, death, death to the IDF. I mean, this guy comes out and he celebrates the murder of Charlie Kirk. Celebrates it right there on stage. Now he comes out and he says, no, calm down. No one was celebrating. You know, we weren't, at no point during yesterday's show was Charlie Kirk's death celebrated. Oh, really? You know, because we have eyes. We can see.
I want to dedicate this next one to an absolute piece of shit of a human being. The pronouns was, were. Because if you chat shit, you will get banned. Rest in peace, Charlie Kirk, you piece of shit. Oh shit.
No, we at no point were we celebrating the death of Charlie Kirk. We have eyes. We can see. And it's Gad Sad. That's the name, Gad Sad. He says, you, Bob Villain, you are a terrible person. Charlie Kirk died for the, quote, crime of wishing to engage people in vigorous debates. In a free society, people have a right to disagree on important matters. You gleefully celebrated his assassination. It's recorded. I watched it. Charlie Kirk has a wife and 2 young children. Do you not have any sense of dignity in your utterly broken moral compass? You are a degenerate. All of these people are. All of them. Everyone in the crowd cheering. You got the flag of the non-existent, Palestine behind him. The white, red, black, and green of the 4 horsemen of the friggin' apocalypse. They celebrate evil. They love it. They parade it. And then they come out the very next day and like, no, come on, calm down. No one was celebrating Charlie Kirk's death. We really do have eyes. We can actually see. But just as vile, I mean, I believe this with all my heart, that just as vile as people like Bob Villain are, and all of these leftists are, and these Islamists are, the woke right accusing Israel of this evil crime of the political assassination of Charlie Kirk, they are just as vile. They truly are. They are just as vile, just as demonic, maybe filled with a different kind of demon, and yet still filled with demons. These are still demon-possessed people that are filled with the absolute, the deepest, darkest spirits from the enemy. And Candace Owens is right at the top of that list. Candace Owens is right at the top of this list. And it makes me so sick that when it comes to Candace Owens, in her tribute video that she made about Charlie Kirk, she talks about how we were friends and he was like a brother to me and all of this and all of this and this. But, we disagreed on a few things.
How wrong it was when people...
And then she goes on and she says how, Charlie would have come around to see things my way. He was on a spiritual journey and he would have come around to see things my way about Israel.
People thought that when I had made up my mind about Israel, that Charlie and me fell apart. Nope, never, not for a second. I said, it's the easiest decision ever because Charlie knew who I was and I knew who he was. I said, Charlie, this is where I'm at and there's no room for movement. And you tell...
This is where I'm at. There's no room for movement. And again, context, she's talking about Israel.
Tell your whoever that needs to hear it, whatever you need to tell them, because we're always going to be brothers and sisters, We're always going to be brother and sister. And we would talk about things and debate things behind the scenes. And I think my perspective was as it's been throughout our relationship. You might not get it now, Charlie, but you will. I'm only a few years older than you, but I think you're gonna see things my way, and I think
You're going to see things my way. I mean, oh my gosh.
I think in the end, Charlie was going through a spiritual transformation. I don't think it. I know it. He was going through a lot, and
He was going through a spiritual transformation, and you know, Charlie, you would have come to see things my way. So, no question that, to be blunt, she is saying that he would eventually share her hatred of Israel and the Jews. That is exactly what the F she is saying here, and it's disgusting beyond belief. And she hasn't stopped. She has not stopped. She has just amplified her anti-Israel, anti-Jewish rhetoric. It's so disgusting how she's just using the death of her, quote, brother, the death of her, quote, friend, to amplify her own voice in speaking hatred of the very group of people and the nation that Charlie Kirk loved. Charlie Kirk loved the Jews and loved Israel. And Candace Owens, yeah, some sister you are, some friend you are, instead of having a moment of deep introspection and reflection to maybe go, I loved Charlie, I knew Charlie, and Charlie really loved Israel, and Charlie really loved the Jews. Maybe Charlie knew something that I don't. No, I'm right. Charlie would have come to see things my way. Oh, she is such a demoness. And you have this thread here. I've tried to stay mostly quiet the past 48 hours, and not just from grief, but because I'm disgusted by those exploiting Charlie's death to elevate themselves, push conspiracies, and advance political agendas. The worst offender is Candace Owens. I once appeared on her show. I regret it deeply. Behind the polished facade is a toxic narcissist who twists every tragedy into a spotlight for herself. Candace Owens. I'm sorry, guys. We had 150,000, watching live, and it somehow crashed the stream on YouTube. Was already difficult enough to speak. We are going to disable the chat and see if that helps. At first, she offered a tribute to Charlie, but even then, she inserted herself, referencing a private phone call related to efforts to mediate a feud and control her increasingly bizarre behavior. I found it distasteful, but gave her grace. I shouldn't have. Then came the spiral, the ADL, Netanyahu, Israel, Frankist. Now she's even accusing Nick Fuentes of narcissism. Well, okay, to be fair, Nick Fuentes is an absolute piece of garbage as well. But she turns it about Israel. Bibi Netanyahu also spoke about, we called Charlie 2 weeks ago to invite him to Israel. That phone call is lacking context. He should provide the proper context of what and who inspired him to make that call, and exactly how Charlie replied to the invite. You see how the conspiracy theories, and this is why I am so against the vast majority of conspiracy theories. I acknowledge there are conspiracy theories that prove to be accurate. There are conspiratists in this world. And yet, if you go down that rabbit hole of just believing every conspiracy theory that comes your way, you will become a dark, demonic person. I can promise you that. Because the vast majority of conspiracy theories are not true. The vast majority, because there are thousands of conspiracy theories out there. And if you allow yourself to go down that trail, you will end up seeing conspiracies everywhere. You will end up seeing things that are not real, that are not based in reality. And pretty soon, you're going to be a friggin' flat earther that thinks that NASA and all governments of the world work together and all scientific agencies on planet Earth work together. And they've been working together for centuries now in order to convince the people that the earth is a globe when really it's flat. I mean, this is the insanity, the absolute insanity you will go. And it is the exact same direction that Candace Owens went. The exact same direction that I used to have respect for Candace years ago. But then it was, while she was still with the Daily Wire, this was maybe like 3 years ago, she came out on her show where she says that she is a moon landing denier, that we never went to the moon. It was all a lie. It was all and it's just like, moon landing deniers, you also are in that realm of, you exist in fairy tale land. Okay? You do. The idea that it was a conspiracy and that it was all a lie and that we've never gone to the moon, you're crazy. You're absolutely nuts. It would be far, far, far easier to put a man on the moon in 1969 than to lie about it and have hundreds of thousands of people in that lie, a part of that lie, and have kept that lie secure for decades and decades until, you came around on social media and figured it out. You cracked the case. You figured it out. And how the Soviet Union was also going to be a part of this, because the Soviet Union, our enemy, and racing to get to the moon before we did, to get into space before we did, and they actually beat us to space, before putting an astronaut in space before we did, that they knew that it happened. They knew that it was real. And we now have satellites that orbit the moon and have taken detailed photographs of the actual 6 landing sites of the Apollo 11, 12, 14, 15, 16, and 17 missions. The photographs are so detailed where we can still see the footpaths that the astronauts took when they were on the surface of the moon, because there is no wind on the moon. There is no atmosphere. And so those footprints are there permanently. They don't go away. They don't blow away. I mean, the evidence for going to the moon is overwhelming. But people with their idiot conspiracy theories go down these rabbit holes into darkness and demonic possession. And so when I learned years ago that Candace Owens was a moon landing denier, I was like, oh no, I know what's going to happen. I knew what was going to happen. I knew it. I was like, she's there. She's going to believe this other lie. She's going to believe another lie. She'll believe another lie. And pretty soon, she'll be hating Israel and the Jews. And what do you know? It's exactly what has happened to her and all of these other idiots. Never let yourself go down that path, okay? If there are truly legitimate, valid things where with proof, with evidence, hardcore evidence from many, many, many valid, reputable sources, that's different. But a bunch of crackpots on the internet, a bunch of tinfoil hat wearing lunatics on social media is not reliable. Okay? Not reliable. Bunch of idiots who don't know how, anything about science or any, the laws that govern the universe, trying to convince you that the earth is flat. If you go along with that, then okay. It just means you're a moron, okay? It means that you are a genuinely low IQ individual. But that's Candace Owens. That's Candace Owens. She allowed herself to go down that rabbit hole, and now she is a dark and demonic person. Laura Loomer. I love Laura. She's fantastic. She says, this is insane behavior, Candace Owens. Charlie Kirk is dead, and you are trying to make it about Israel and the Jews. Please stop for the sake of Charlie, his wife, and his kids. I can't even believe people are focused on things like this right now. Radicalization is real. But no, she makes it about Israel. Anyone like Candace Owens, who's using the murder of Charlie Kirk as an opportunity to promote their idea that Charlie was becoming anti-Israel or becoming RC or whatever, should really just shut up for a while. Please, have some decency. We can talk about your agenda another time. Some obvious facts that some people need to hear, okay? I love this. I came across this list, and these are some obvious facts that some people need to hear, okay? Every one of these. Israel didn't do 9/11. Fact. Jesus wasn't Christian, but Jewish. Fact. Palestine was never a country. Fact. Western civilization was built on Judeo-Christian values. Fact. Lebanese Christians aren't Arabs. Fact. Hezbollah never liberated Lebanon. Fact. Did just the opposite. Dominated and enslaved and destroyed Lebanon. Hamas aren't freedom fighters. They destroyed Gaza. Diversity isn't a strength. Increased migration from third world countries leads to higher crime rates. There are only two genders. Men and women aren't the same, but have important differences. If you think you belong to the opposite sex, you have a mental disorder. Also a spiritual disorder, spiritual illness. Israel didn't kill JFK. Turkey is a terrorist state. Qatar is a terrorist state. The Islamic Revolution destroyed Iran. By help with the communists that were in Iran at the time in 1979, the Islamists could not have overthrown Iran without help from the left. Same alliance that we see today, looking to overthrow the entire West. The Islamic Revolution destroyed Iran. Communism failed. Gaza was never an open-air prison. The Nakba was a result of Arab aggression. Islam is a death cult that isn't compatible with Western values and Christianity. Anti-Zionism is anti-Semitism. Jews are indigenous to the land of Israel, not Palestinians. Some obvious facts that some people need to hear. A lot of people need to hear. Yeah. Anti-Semitism rots your brain. There is nothing more low IQ than hating Jews. The people who make everything about Jews do so because they are one-dimensional people who know they have no purpose or personality outside of the cult they promote online. I've muted all of them. And it's the same thing with me. Like, I have no patience for these people. None. Every single person saying Israel killed Charlie is responsible for more hate towards Jews. All of you are under the judgment of God. You are liars. You are propagandists. You are lower down than a snake's navel in a wagon track. Complete nonsense and reckless behavior. 100%. Pastor Greg Locke, who, amazing guy, really like what he has to say, and also personal friend to Charlie Kirk. Want to see if I could ever, get, a conversation going with Greg Locke. Maybe invite him on the show at some point in the future. That'd be amazing, But working right now to build up Into the Forge. And so, hey, if you're here and you're not subscribed, you make sure you're subscribed to Into the Forge and get it out there. There's a brand new political channel that brings you the truth of the daily news, and most importantly, brings you the truth of the Word of God, so we actually have the solutions to all the crazy, insane problems in our crazy, insane world. You're a part of this. You're a part of this. Help to build this up so that we can actually get out to reach some of these people and get them on the show, and we can actually have conversations with some of these people. Definitely want to have that, so make sure that you help out. Brandon Tatum, the Officer Tatum, is fantastic. Brandon says, I haven't seen one Jew disparage Charlie in his death. The Prime Minister of Israel honored him in front of the world. I've lost count of how many radical leftists have trashed him and mocked his death. And now you tell me that you think, and now you tell me who you think killed Charlie. Get your head out of your rear, please. Exactly. And you get these people that are like, no, Israel did it. And it's like, I have not seen a single Jew, not a single Jew, celebrate the murder of Charlie Kirk. Not a single one. I've seen hundreds, many, many hundreds of leftists and Islamists celebrate the death of Charlie Kirk. Oh, no, Israel did it, and the Jews did it. What I posted is, if you're using Charlie's assassination to further divide the political right on the issue of standing with the state of Israel, those are Charlie's words, because he loved both the Jews and the nation of Israel, you are a wicked person that desperately needs the light of truth that Charlie stood for, fought for, and died for. And of course, you got these, these monsters that just hate Israel and they hate the Jews, and they use the words of Jesus Christ to justify their hatred of Israel and the Jews. I made this video yesterday. It's a 3-minute video. We're going to give it a quick watch because this is my word to all of you out there that hate the Jews and hate Israel, and you would dare use the word of God to justify your hatred. So here we go, exposing lies.
More and more I'm finding out that I just don't have the patience to keep dealing with these people that will use the words of Christ in order to justify their hatred of the Jews and their hatred of the state of Israel. I just don't have patience for any of you. And they use verses like Revelation 3:9. Ooh, there are those who claim to be Jews, and yet they are not Jews, but they are of the synagogue of Satan. How dare you? How dare you, you shameful, shameful, wicked people that would twist the words of Jesus, the Jew, in order to justify your hatred of the Jews overall. You people make me sick, genuinely sick. And I have talked on this so many times, it's like do I even have the patience anymore to explain it once again? Revelation chapter 3, verse 9, is simply talking about how there are those who claim to be believers in God and claim to be those that belong to the house of God, as in they claim to be those that keep the commandments of God, and yet they don't. They're wicked people they're just hypocrites. So they don't belong to the synagogue of God, but they belong to the synagogue of Satan. Because in the first century, the term Jew was synonymous with somebody who claimed to be a believer in God and a keeper of his commandments. It is no different than saying there are those who claim to be Christians, claim to be followers of the Christ, and yet they are not Christians. They are not followers of the Christ. They don't belong to the church of God. They belong to the church of Satan because their actions are evil. And to such people, Jesus will say to them on Judgment Day, "Get lost, depart from me, I never knew you." That is all that Revelation 3:9 is talking about. That is it. That is it. It is only talking about how there are those who claim to be believers in God, claim to be righteous, claim to be followers of the truth, and yet they are not. Their deeds are evil. Their actions are evil. They claim to belong to the synagogue of God, but they don't. They belong to the synagogue of Satan. They claim to belong to the church of God, but they don't. They belong to the church of Satan. They claim to belong to the family, the house of God, but they don't. Because their deeds are evil, they belong to the family, the house of Satan. That is it. That is it.
Oh, there you go.
And so, in the words of Michael Jordan, stop it. Get some help.
There you go. In the words of Michael Jordan, stop it. Get some help. And it's so sad because think about Charlie Kirk, where he is a martyr for Christ and goes right into the arms of Jesus, where he's going to hear those words, "Well done, good and faithful servant." But then you have Charlie Kirk's, quote, sister, his, quote, friend, who was doing all of this horrendous evil in the promoting of all of these lies, these despicable, vile lies. And Candace, Charlie's, quote, friend and sister, is she going to hear those same words when she dies eventually? "Well done, good and faithful servant"? Or is she going to hear those words, "I never knew you. Depart from me, you worker of lawlessness"? Only God has the ability to decide that one, to determine that kind of judgment, that kind of condemnation. I don't have that authority. But I can certainly see the fruits of an individual, and I can certainly see that Candace Owens, she used to be filled with a tremendous amount of light. But then she started giving into the conspiracies, started giving into the nonsense, started giving into the darkness, and now she's depraved. She is a depraved person. who promotes lies and encourages many, many millions of people to love those lies as well, to embrace those lies. And that's why it's like, when it comes to somebody like Candace, the judgment that will be on her head for promoting lies is enormous. That's a judgment I certainly can make, because God's word has said that teachers receive the stricter judgment. Because you don't just get judged by your own thoughts and words and actions, you also get judged by all of the people that you influenced and their thoughts, their words, and their actions. So somebody like Candace, if you are influencing millions of people in lies and stupid, baseless conspiracy theories and a hatred of Israel and a hatred of the Jews, I think that's exactly what she's going to hear on Judgment Day. Get lost. I never knew you. She who is the friend and sister to Charlie Kirk. But we need to remember this, and I'll conclude with this. Charlie Kirk. Now, this was April 5th of 2018. And I say, be like Charlie. Charlie said, people ask me all the time where I get my ideas and arguments from. I read Jordan B. Peterson, I watch Ben Shapiro, I listen to Dennis Prager. Those three are by far the most effective, wise, intelligent, and impactful thinkers of our time. Be like Charlie. Be like Charlie. You know, two of these three, Ben Shapiro and Dennis Prager, are Jews. And then the other one, Jordan Peterson, isn't exactly what you would call a traditional Christian. And yet, these are the three people that Charlie Kirk read and listened to and followed and watched. Now, of course, these are three mentors. These are three people that he, listened to. Charlie's main foundation, main source is right here, the Holy Bible. So it starts here with the Holy Bible, as it needs to start with all of us, but then there are those that are mentors to you. There are those that are teachers to you. And here they are. Jordan Peterson, not a traditional Christian, you can definitely say, and then Ben Shapiro and Dennis Prager, two Jews. I share this, and because I shared it not just on my personal page, but I shared it in a lot of comments on a lot of these people that are hating on Israel and hating on the Jews. And the number one thing that people attack me over in sharing this is, that was 7 years ago. You share something from April of, 2018, that was 7 years ago. Charlie changed into a totally different person over the last 7 years. Charlie evolved, his way of thinking over the last 7 years. And my response to that is, oh, really? He did, huh? Well, then why, when Dennis Prager had his catastrophic fall off the ladder at his home in Las Vegas last November, leading to him being a quadriplegic and paralyzed from the neck down, why did Charlie Kirk visit Dennis Prager many, many times in the hospital, go out of his way that whenever he was in the area of Los Angeles, he would visit his friend and mentor, Dennis Prager? Why is he doing that? Also, why is Charlie Kirk, why did he write a book about observing the Sabbath day, which is going to be published this year, December of this year? And why did Charlie Kirk dedicate that book to Dennis Prager? Oh, Charlie really evolved over the last 7 years. Charlie totally changed his mind over the last 7 years. No, he didn't. He still loves Jordan Peterson, loves Ben Shapiro, loves Dennis Prager. He dedicates his book, published this year in December, to Dennis Prager. So don't give me your BS about Charlie Kirk changing his mind and evolving his thinking. No, you just hate what Charlie Kirk loved. That's all there is to it.